We're here to talk about how we can conquer some of the scary things in analytics, or the things that are kind of daunting for us. A lot of folks are non-technical folks or business folks, or even some of us who are technical folks. There's just still a lot of complexity when it comes to BI analytics. And so we, our partners, Google, Looker, and Promethium, we're partnering together to hopefully, give you guys an educational but fun session on, how to tackle kind of these three common nightmares that haunt us when it comes to doing analytics. And hopefully the goal is, we'll learn something at the end of the session, and these things will never be as scary anymore going forward. So a little bit introduction on speakers. My name is Casey Lai. I am the CEO and founder of Promethium. And joined by me is our good friend Shohei Naron, the technology partner manager at Looker. So a little bit of intro on Promethium. So Promethium, we're really focused on automating data ops using AI and machine learning. And our background are guys who understand, data cataloging, understand BI analytics, understand data governance. We do have folks that come from companies such as Oracle, Google, Salesforce, Amazon, Informatica, as well as having a great list of investors who are all only investing in data-driven companies, right? Folks like Zeta Venture Partners, 406 Ventures, etc. And the reason why we're here is because we really are focused, and we're very passionate about making analytics a lot easier. And we realize there's just certain things that seem to get in the way all the time. And that makes it so that sometimes business users are afraid to either ask for more data to get the insights they need, or they're afraid to ask for different insights because it would take too long, or it's just way too hard. And so that really defeats the purpose of being data-driven, right? If you have this data, you already own it, but it's just too hard to get at it, too hard to make it answer your questions, then it's a shame. And so, what we want to talk about today are these three things. I'm sure there are many more that haunt us, and probably different ones for different people. But as we talk to customers, we find that there's probably three things that everyone has in common. All right, number one is just not being able to find the data you need when you need it. And that's because the data, in most of our enterprise environments are just distributed across a number of different vendors, a number of different locations, number of different clouds, a number of different systems. And it's hard to find the one guy or gal that actually knows exactly where it is, where to find it, has access to it, etc. The next part that haunts us all is just time, just how long it takes to get something done, because of the complex process of once you try to ask a question, then you have to find the data, then you have to do an ETL to move the data, then you have to do some type of verification, some type of prep, maybe figure out what to join and figure out how to query, all before you can then get to the part where you still have to build the BI charts. And that's still hard. And so this is where we're finding it's, one of the things, the wait time is actually very scary. And then lastly, we take it for granted that just because something is in your BI tool and you've got pretty charts, that people automatically know what to do with that and know what actions to take. And that's just not necessarily true. Not all BI visualization tools are created equal. Some are much better, right, in terms of helping you take action, guide you in taking the action, right? And so we'll show kind of how the power of Looker and how that would actually help. Promethium gives you just a single place, like a single Google search bar, to find everything. And so, I could do it a couple ways. One is, if I think I know the vendor where the data is residing on, I can simply just select that and say, here's everything in Oracle. Or maybe I want to know, here's everything in, say, Snowflake, and it will easily filter for that. Or we can just simply type something we're looking for. So maybe I want to know something about agents, for example. And you notice as I type, then instantly Promethium goes and finds anything that's related to agents or called agents. So anything highlighted in green is, has a term agent in there. So here we have a table called agent. Here we have columns called agents. And here we have tags that are called agents. And here we even have a question that has the term agent in there. And so this lets the user immediately see kind of where the hits are. And for every search results, Promethean brings back, the name of the database, the vendor, the location where it's located, so you can instantly find the data that you're looking for. And so it becomes very easy to just simply type in a word and find all the data across the entire your data landscape. The beauty is we didn't have to move any data. So there was no ingestion process, no data migration, no ETL process. You can literally stand up Prometheum, connect to a data source, and start searching in less than 30 minutes. And so, here I have discovery, but let's say I wanted to validate the data, right? So maybe I want to take a look at, the values of the data. So you can actually click on any of the results and you'll actually be able to see here, the actual values. And here you can see the values for the first 10 rows going all the way up to the first 1,000 rows. And so we do have that data preview capability in there. So that's great from a data discovery validation perspective, but sometimes people want to know how the data is being used. And this is where, questions actually come in handy, right? Because the questions actually show how business people are using the data. And so I can filter for showing only tables with questions. I can sort by, number of questions. And so it looks like here I've got 6 questions that people have asked and used this particular table. And I can look at this and get an idea of whether or not this is what I'm looking for. And so I might look at this and say, well, yeah, maybe I want to know what is the revenue package by vendor, right? And simply when I click on it, then Promethean will actually give you the ability to see a number of things. One is, you can actually see the tables that are involved in answering this question. So you can see that it required 2 Oracle tables and 1 table from Snowflake. If you click on each of these vendor icons, we'll actually expand and show you the details of the tables. So you can actually see the column names and the data type. And, so now you see, okay, this was how what data we needed, but how was it assembled? And this is where Prometheum, with our directions, we can automatically show you the assembly, right? Kind of the step-by-step directions of what did you need to select? How did you need to do the join? What was it actually joined to? And we'll even go one step further to actually automatically write the SQL statement for you so that you don't have to do that. So this is the power of Prometheum in terms of kind of the end-to-end data ops, where once you ask a question, we not only find the data, we tell you what relationships exist, we tell you how to put it together. Each of these are editable, so you can change this, from a data prep perspective. I can change different type of joins. And from Prometheum, you can also create different views, right? So for example, let's say, I'm looking at this question, for example, and I see that I do have an answer here, right? And I can actually see, hey, are there, is there a different view? Is there a sales view? Is there a marketing view? We allow you to actually, create views. And a view is basically, the data prep, right? How was it assembled? Which columns did you need to run? Which did you add any wheres, any group bys? And then being able to then execute the query here or publish it to, say, Looker or other BI tools, all within Prometheum. You can, if you don't want the graphical way where it's automatically done for you, we certainly do cater to power users, right? So you can certainly also do this with a full-blown SQL editor as well. And so, what we have given users is a global discovery solution that doesn't just end at discovery. It actually does all the other steps that you need in terms of, how do you do it? How do you assemble data? How do you prep it? How do you query it? That's all done automatically for you in Prometheum and basic visualization, right? Enough for you to say, okay, it looks like this is the answer, let's move on, or oops, it's not the right answer, let's spend more time, or I want to get better dashboards, now let's go to Looker, for example. And so, when you want to go to Looker, there's a couple of ways, right? One is you can simply say, I want to publish this, and when you publish this, we can actually then go to, it'll do using, our friends from Starburst, right? From Presto perspective, we can do a Presto view. which will then be connected to any BI tool that has a Presto connector. So Looker, Power BI, Tableau, etc. Or, what you see here is, I can directly, without building the view, I can say, hey, I actually want to go to Looker, right? And so we do have integration here with Looker called Explore and Looker. And so, for example, if this is what I want, I can instantly click on this and it will automatically open up Looker and will automatically show you the data. So here you
And there's actually one tile that I wanted to go in a little bit deeper on is the plan popularity and pricing. Now, if we take a look at this, and there's somewhat of a trend that we can find, what we're looking at are two metrics. We're looking at, oops, there we go, the plan count in a line chart. We're also looking at the average monthly revenue in that purple bar chart, or we're looking at them combined. And we're splitting them up by the contract length bucket. Are they short-term contracts, long-term contracts, or TBD? Most likely a month-by-month contract. And it seems like for the most part, all contracts are doing, or contract lengths are doing okay, except for the long-term ones. The average price, average monthly revenue is very low, $3.74, and there are only 4 subscribers, right? So maybe as a corporate person, I look at this and say, well, why don't we sunset the long-term plans? Because it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of ROI on this. Let's move them to a month-to-month or a medium short-term length contract. Well, how do you do that? How do you actually figure out who to connect to? Especially because as an organization that sells through channel reps, I may or may not have critical information on the individual customers. I may have to go talk to the agents who will then talk to our customers. Instead of going to another person or an expert to pull data, I'll just click on this number 4, plan count 4. And what we get is 4 rows, right? To say, here are the plan IDs that we need to focus on. Here's the activity key, product key. But even this isn't really giving me too much information. I need to augment what I'm looking at. So let's do that. I'll go ahead and click on this Explore button, which will take us to the Explore section, as we call it in Looker. This is the ad hoc and self-service analytics space, where I get to pick and choose whatever I like to pick from on the left-hand side and create new visualizations, run deeper self-service analytics and ad hoc calculations. Now, before I add anything else, I also want to show you how Looker got to this information in the first place. And unlike other tools, again, because we do everything in SQL, you can click on the SQL tab for audit purposes, or just, out of curiosity, taking a look at what tables we accessed. And in our case, it seems like in order to get those 4 columns, we wrote this select statement with these from and left joins, as well as this where clause. And what you'll notice now with the from and left join, if you squint a little bit, is that we're pulling from Oracle. So right now we're only accessing the Oracle data warehouse through Promethium. But the second thing I want to focus on is the where. It's a case when statement, and it turns out that this short-term, medium-term, long-term categorization is not something that's in the data warehouse. It's something that we, as an organization, decided on and said, if the contract length is less than a year, we'll deem that as a short-term contract. Between a year and 3 years, medium, more than 5, or lifetime, then long. So what I'll do now is add some more information that I'd like to get before I go to the agents. Let's take a look at the brand of each device that came with that the plan. And you may have noticed that Looker added a left join to a Snowflake database. Then we're going to add some more agent data. Let's take a look at the agent location, where they are, as well as the agent vendor. Who do they represent? And then another thing that I noticed here is that when we added that S3 data, not only did Looker add the left join to that S3 data warehouse or bucket, the columns actually don't have names. They're called col 10 and col 11. Obviously not something that your end users would know what to do with. And we'll get into this a little bit later in the development section, but this is another thing that Looker does. It makes it easier for end users to understand what data they're looking at by curating data and adding descriptions. So this agent drop down here, they're actually names that we created or put in LookML, that modeling layer, so that you won't see a list of col1, col2, col3, and these user unfriendly column names. But I'll save that for a little bit later. And here we go. Now that I've clicked on run, I have this augmented data table with the brand of devices, S as well as X's. The location seems like they're pretty widespread. And then the vendors that each of these agents represent. And two of them are from Dial America. So maybe Dial America is a vendor that focuses mostly on long-term deals. We probably need to call them up and say, hey, we're winding down long-term plans. Let's focus on moving them to some other plan. But I may or may not be the agent manager. And at this point, I could download data sources, I could download the results, or I could upload this data into another, let's say, FTP server to share the data with others. But in Looker, because Looker is a web application, I can just copy and paste this link and say, hey, I noticed this result set. I noticed that Dial America seems to be signing up a lot of longer term folks. Can you call them up and talk to them about our longer term strategy?